Good evening. The Planning Commission meeting of November 23rd, 2022 will come to order. All rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The secretary will call roll.
Commissioner Hodge,
Here.
Commissioner Rice,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Rice,
Still here.
Chairperson Tolson,
Here.
Commissioner Mann,
Here.
Commissioner Gray is
While we're doing this, a little bit of time, I only have one speaker card. If anyone else wants to speak. We're going to wait a couple minutes while we have some AV details we got to take care of. Commissioner Gray, can you hear us?
Oh, now I can.
Wonderful. We need to
Hi.
complete the roll call.
Commissioner Gray, are you here?
I am here.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Before we approve the agenda, I'd like to make a correction. Under approval of minutes, instead of May 5th, it should say May 4th, 2022.
Okay.
And with that correction, I would move to approve the agenda.
Second.
A motion was made by Vice Chair Rice and a second by Commissioner Mann. Unless there are any objections, the agenda stands approved. And for the minutes, we have two sets of minutes, so we will ask for a motion for approval on them separately. So may I have a motion for approval of the minutes for May 4th, 2022?
Move to approve the minutes of May 4, 2022.
We have a motion. Can we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. A motion was made by Commissioner Hodge and a second by Vice Chair Rice. Unless there are any objections, the minutes are approved. We'll go through the second set of minutes that we're going to ask for approval for June 22nd.
Move to approve minutes of June 22, 2022.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Fantastic. A motion was made by Commissioner Hodge, a second by Commissioner Mann. Unless there are any objections, the minutes are approved. Okay. The Secretary will read the declaration of conflict.
If any member of the Planning Commission may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time.
Are there any declarations of conflict? All right. This is the time allotted for public statements or comments on on items other than public hearing items. Are there anyone in the chamber wishing to be heard? Hearing none. Are there any correspondence from the Deputy Director, City Planner?
Yes, Chairman Tolson, members of the commission, we did provide you one supplemental staff report for item 11A.1, which is provided to you at your desk and provided by email.
Commissioner Gray, do you have that supplemental? We can't hear you.
Sorry. That one I don't think I have because my computer decided not to work on me out of state. So if somebody can email that to me, I'd be more than happy to look that over. I'm sorry, is that the one that Stephanie Yates sent? I'm sorry, I do.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Never mind, I do have that. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Just confirming. Anybody else not have that in front of them? Perfect. Okay. May I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar? Okay, even better.
I'm showing we don't have anything in the consent calendar, is that
Perfect.
correct?
Perfect. All right, this is the time and place set for a public hearing on the consideration of Z-S-2022-0002, PD-S-2022-0001, and the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring plan thereof. Are there any ex parte communications to report? Commissioner Gray, any ex parte communications?
None for me, thank you.
Thank you. May we have an oral report on this matter by staff?
Yes, Chairman Tolson and members of the Planning Commission. This is a new proposed 83-unit multifamily development project that we're very excited about. We've been working with Haywood Street Associates very closely much of this year for this. So to have our presentation, Associate Planner Elizabeth Richardson will do the PowerPoint.
Okay. Good evening. Tonight, we will be reviewing a request for a zone change and construction of a new multifamily apartment building.
Let me interrupt you, Elizabeth. We'll check if Commissioner Gray could see the presentation.
Oh, Commissioner Gray, are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, there's two screens, so I do see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The project consists of a zone change and plan development permit. The zone change is to change the zone of a 0.22 acre portion of the site from commercial office to residential very high density. A plan development permit is for a new 83-unit multifamily residential building. An affordable housing agreement is necessary for the 4 affordable units set aside for very low income qualified renters, and the request for 1 incentive and 4 waivers. The affordable housing agreement will be considered by the City Council. The project is located on Haywood Street, near the corner of Haywood Street and Erringer Road. The site is located south of Haywood Street, west of Erringer Road, and north of the Arroyo Simi. Surrounding uses include a medical office buildings to the north and east, and a senior apartment building to the west. The site is generally vacant, but does have a portion of the parking lot used by the medical office building to the north with driveway access to an additional parcel. This is a view of the site from Haywood Street looking south. And this is a view of the site from Erringer Road looking west. The site is split into 2 zones, residential very high density and commercial office. The zone change request will modify the zone for a 0.22 acre portion of the site located on the northern edge of the property, circled here in red. The purpose of the zone change is to make the entire project site residentially zoned in order to accommodate the design of the new apartment complex. The general plan land use for the site is also split. The larger portion of the site has a land use designation of very high density residential, while the smaller 0.22 acre portion of the site is office commercial. A general plan amendment is not required because General Plan Policy 32.1 states that when portions of a parcel less than 1 acre in size, the general plan land use designation and zone may be inconsistent as long as the use is consistent with the general plan goals and policies, as well as consistent with the parcel size, zoning, and surrounding uses. The proposed multifamily residential project is consistent with the existing surrounding residential development, and the proposed density is consistent with the underlying zoning of the larger portion of the site. Approximately 3.11 acres of the 4.57 site will be developed with the project. As shown on this map highlighted in red, the building will be located on the western edge of the site between the adjacent senior apartment building to the west and office building to the east. The remaining portion of the site will remain vacant. The site will be developed with a new 83-unit apartment building. The building will be 3 and 4 stories and approximately 110,000 square feet in size. The units will be a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms, which will range in size between 800 and 1,463 square feet. 4 of the units will be affordable at the very low income category, and 131 parking spaces will be provided as both surface parking as well as garage parking. Amenities will include a swimming pool, fitness center, community room, media room, and common area. The site is designed with the building in the middle with parking on all 4 sides. Parking on the northern end of the building will be for visitors to the project site, including delivery drop-offs and guests. Parking on the east, south, and west sides of the building will be for residents. An interior courtyard provides open space for the residents and includes amenities such as a swimming pool, outdoor kitchen and dining spaces, and outdoor lounge area with a fireplace. This is a rendering of that interior courtyard space that they're proposing. The building is designed as a modern contemporary architectural design with stucco and fiber cement composite siding, flat roofs, sloped roofs with metal roofing, tower elements, metal awnings, vinyl windows, and metal railings. The building massing is modulated with horizontal and vertical articulation. Vertical articulation is provided by varying the parapet heights, and horizontal articulation is provided by furring out portions of the walls above the first floor, providing large balconies on the east elevation and projecting the main front entrance along the northern elevation. The building is rectangular in shape with units facing out on all four sides. Parking is provided in first-floor garages on the south, east, and west elevations of the building. The building has a first-floor base finished in two-color stucco, and the second, third, and fourth stories will use a variety of materials, including stucco and fiber cement composite lap and shingle siding. The front entry to the building is defined with fiber cement composite siding that extends to the ground and is accentuated with a trellis. And this is two views of that north elevation. On the rendering down here at the bottom, you can see where that trellis element will be to accentuate the entrance to the building. The applicant is providing 4 affordable housing units for very low-income qualified renters, or 5% of the 83 units. This qualifies the project for a 20% density bonus, modified parking requirements, 1 concession, and multiple waivers as long as the waivers do not impose a life or safety hazard. In general, denial of an incentive or waiver requires a finding that the incentive or waivers would have a specific adverse impact on the health, safety, or the physical environment for which there is no mitigation. Denial of a concession or waiver would require either the finding for a safety impact or that granting of a waiver is not required because it would not preclude construction of the project. The applicant is not requesting a density bonus, but has requested 1 incentive and 4 waivers. The requested concession is to increase the allowed building height from 40 feet to 45 feet 6 inches. And that is demonstrated here by this red line. Staff is in support of the incentive, since the applicant has designed the project with the increased building height placed at the rear of the building with articulation to break up the building massing. The requested waivers include reduced front yard landscaping, increased walking distance to the trash enclosure, increased walking distance to the tenant parking, and increased number of stories. The waiver for reduced front yard landscaping will reduce the required 10-foot landscaping strip along the front property line to 5 feet. Staff is in support of the waiver, as the project still provides landscaping across the front property line, as well as additional parking. The waiver for walking distance to the trash enclosures would increase the required maximum distance of 250 feet for a resident to access trash receptacles measured from their individual unit front doors. Staff is in support of the waiver because the project will still maintain a 250-foot distance to each trash enclosure measured from the entrance to the buildings. And on this site plan, the 2 trash enclosures are highlighted here with the red rectangle. And these red arrows note the exits of the building. The waiver for walking distance to 10 parking spaces would reduce the maximum required distance of 200 feet from a resident's front door to their parking space. Staff is in support of the waiver since the project provides the required number of parking spaces as well as meets the ADA accessibility requirements. The waiver to increase the number of stories would allow the building to be 4 stories rather than 3 stories as allowed by the zoning code. Staff is in support of the waiver since the building is designed with the 4th story element placed at the southern edge of the building with articulation to break up the building massing. And this red line on this elevation notes the where the 3rd story is, and then this arrow notes where the location of those 4th story units are here at the back of the building. The project was presented to Neighborhood Council 3 on September 15th, 2020, and where they recommended approval of the project by a vote of 5-0 with 1 abstention. The audience vote was 0-1 with 1 abstention. An initial study was prepared for the project in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Based on the conclusion of the initial study, it was determined that the project would not have any potentially significant impacts, and a mitigated negative declaration was prepared. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission make a recommendation of approval to the City Council of the zone change and plan development permit and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring plan. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions from commissioners?
I have a question.
Vice Chair Rice.
Yeah, what percentage of the project would be landscaped? Because I didn't see that in the packet, approximately. Because that's usually in the packet, and I didn't see that anywhere. I mean, I know we reduced the front from 10 feet to 5, and I understand that, but just,
The applicant may be able to provide that
Okay.
percentage. The residential zoning districts don't have a minimum percentage. That's
Okay.
why we did not spell out the percentage.
okay.
Any other questions? I've got on my screen here Commissioner Hodge.
Go ahead, Commissioner Mann.
Sure. 83 units, 5% for affordable. That's just over 4 units. Do we round down to 4? Or do we round up? Because it's actually 4.15.
We round down.
We round down. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Mann? Commissioner Hodge?
Yeah, just some sort of broad strokes here. All right, the zone change isn't required for the .22 parcel because it's less than is it a half acre or an acre, correct? So we really don't need to make a determination on that. We can change the zone but for this particular project, it's less than a certain size, so that's almost automatic, correct?
It's the general plan amendment that's not required because of the provision of the general plan that says that when a portion of the site's less than 1 acre, you don't require a general.
But we are
We don't
making
require that the general plan and the zoning be consistent. However, we do require that the zoning be consistent to allow the residential land use.
So, all right, help me out. This is why I was asking the question. I want to make sure that I'm understanding the nature of the finding that we're being asked to make, or the decision that we're being asked to make. Are we or are we not, changing the zoning for that .22 parcel?
We are changing the zoning for that .22 acre portion of the parcel from CO to
All right,
RVH.
we don't know what we're doing yet, but the project request is to make that change, correct?
Correct.
Okay, very good. The project applicant is asking for less than the allowed density. They're not asking for the 20% density bonus, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then they are required to have a certain number of parking spaces, but they're actually providing more than the required parking based upon state law.
Correct.
And the height, I don't know if it's a waiver or concession, but whatever it is, that only refers to or relates to the south elevation of the project, correct?
The waiver to increase the building height to 4 stories is on the southern edge of the project. That's also where we see the building height, where that 45-foot 6-inch building height, that's also where that's focused on, is there at the rear portion. So it's 4 stories and 45 feet 6 inches.
Okay, I was a little confused by the red line that you showed on that one slide. If you could go back to that slide with the red line. Okay. So this is the southern elevation, correct?
This is the
It's the east.
east elevation.
All right, so that area above the red line, that is all part of the requested height increase, or not?
This is demonstrating where the 4th story element is.
Okay, but I'm just
Down
asking, well,
here-
I'm asking whether it's 3 or 4 stories, I'm asking about the feet. So if the red line was as tall as the building was, what would that be?
Say that again. If the 4th story, You want to know where the 40 feet is?
Correct.
I see. Let me just check my elevation.
I think the 40 feet is midway between that 4-story wall.
Go back one screen, I think you'll see the 46.5. There you go.
Right, so the 45,
Oh, I'm looking over here.
45 feet 6 inches is measured to the top of the 4th-story element. But you want to know where if we were to put a red line in here, where's the 40 feet?
Well, I guess my confusion is I'm not certain. My understanding is that the 4th floor element is only on the southern elevation. If this is the eastern elevation, it makes it look like there's the elevation, the height is taller than 40 feet, the entire length of the eastern elevation.
I think a clear way to describe it is that this 4th floor, 45-foot portion of the building, it's focused on the southern end of the building. It's not on the southern elevation. So this would be Haywood Street here on the north. Arroyo Simi's over here. So this massing here is focused on the southern end of the building.
Okay. Well, how do you know? I got the one that doesn't work.
Well, at least you got one.
I'll just point to it. The area on the right side of this slide, in that very structure right there. What's the height of that structure? Is that 40 feet or less?
You got it.
That's at 39 feet.
Okay, and then for some reason I take it that is that an elevator?
There is an elevator in this project. I believe it is, yes, it is located at the northern end of the building.
And
That's
so
what
the
this-
structure that appears to go above the 39-foot first, the light gray, or the light beige portion of that building. Let me have that for a second.
We need that. Sorry.
Yay. All right, so this is 39 feet. This apparently is a little taller than 39 feet, but that's elevator, correct?
Right, that would be the elevator.
And this looks to be a little bit taller than 39 feet. What is that? Excuse me?
That would be the stair.
Stair? Okay, to go up onto the top?
Right.
All right. And is there any limitation as, I'm just trying to understand what we're granting or going along with making findings. Okay. I understand that this area back here on the southern side, that's apartment units, that there's a 4th story of apartment units, correct? But these are utilities, in essence, that go above the 40-foot line.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. You can send that back down there. And then if you could show the slide that shows where the trash enclosures are. I'm wondering if those appear to be closer to the front. I don't know which of the units are more than the 250 feet, or if they're placed there so that the 250 feet is no further from the front door of the building. I'm not sure how that plays out. But if the trash enclosures were further to the south, meaning in this particular slide further to the left, would that, see the trash enclosure at the top and at the bottom? They're more towards the front of the street. They look like they're about 35% back as opposed to the middle. Would that bring the trash enclosures closer to the people who live in the back of the building? If you were to move the trash enclosures further back and thereby make it a shorter distance, the maximum distance would be less for the people who are in the back.
That would be a question for the applicant team.
Okay. Very good. Okay, terrific. Thank you for your answers.
Commissioner Gray, do you have any questions for the staff?
I actually do have a couple of questions. Not a whole lot, but okay. So the units that are going to be the property that is closer to Erringer, that is going to be residential at some point in the future, correct? Because it just said that it's on future vacant site, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
In the-
okay.
Correct.
And then it says that there are proposed there's no requirement for guest parking, but they are proposing for 10 guest parking spots, because I mean, I've been in complexes where guest parking is extremely important. When it says proposed, does that mean that it is going to be required at that point of them through if we approve this project, that then there will definitely be 10, 10 guest parking spots, or could they convert that to something different?
If you look at the site plan that's on the screen right now, it shows the 10 spots.
Okay, so great. I'm just clarifying that if it says propose and we approve it, then it will be for guest parking. And then my last question, and this may not be something that staff can answer. And I recall, wasn't this the site that was the mental health facility at one point, like 20 years ago?
Right, this was previously the hospital site.
Correct. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm just curious on this, because I could be completely wrong, so please correct me. Was this not a contaminated site? And if it was, of whatever was taking place at that time, has that all been cleaned up so that we don't have any future issues with that particular site?
This site does not appear on the state's Cortese list, which is the clearinghouse for contaminated site. So if it had been contaminated, it's been remediated.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's my main concern, because I do remember the Acorn or something when it was demolished saying that it may have not been the Acorn. I'm so sorry. I don't want to stipulate that it was the Acorn. I just remember hearing, 20 years ago when that was demolished, that there was some contamination. So as long as that has been cleaned up so our future residents don't have an issue, that's my main issue. Those are my only questions for staff at this point. So thank you so much.
We may have some more insight on that from our applicant. My only question is, for affordable, do we designate it 2 for the 1-bedroom and 2 for the 2-bedroom, or just?
The applicant team has not designated the affordable units as of yet. If they will be entirely 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, but that would be a good question for the applicant team tonight.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions before we move on, or?
Chairman Tolson, let me clarify an earlier response. The Commissioner Mann's question about the 4% of the affordable, it is actually 5% they must provide, but that percentage is taken off the base density, not the 83 units. So it'd be like 79 units, then you add the 4, so it probably does add up to 5%. So we do round up, not down, for affordable.
Perfect.
Chairperson Tolson, if I could ask one more question.
You bet.
Okay. Okay, so my question had to do with the nearby land that used to belong to the hospital. The land that belongs to the hospital, who owns that land? Okay, so you have the medical center, and we have this project, and then we have the land that used to be part of the hospital, right? So we have 3
I
different
see.
parcels of land. Is that
So,
okay? So this land, this 0.22 acres was purchased. Is that correct?
so the applicant owns,
Both portions of land? Is that correct?
correct, it's one
Okay.
legal lot, so
Okay.
the applicant owns 4.57
Okay,
acres.
so my question is, because we had the supplemental, and on the supplemental, the medical center, they were saying that they park on this land. Is that correct? Or they've been parking on this land. So does that mean that they've been parking on the applicant's land?
Correct.
Okay,
They-
that's my question.
So-
So the medical center has been parking on land that they don't actually own. Do they
Correct.
have some sort of shared arrangement or something in the past, or that you're aware of?
What has happened is that when the medical office building was originally approved in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
there's a condition of approval that they provide that they use parking across Haywood Street,
Mm-hmm.
which is what they currently use. This is a better view of it. So right around here, I apologize, I meant to put a line on here. But this is approximately where that property line is. Everything south of that line would be owned by the applicant. And then there's this upper portion that is owned by the medical building. So when the building was approved in as I said, when the building was approved in 1980, it is conditioned to provide parking here on the site. However, upon reviewing of the title report and all of the documents included in it, there was not a reciprocal parking agreement recorded, neither was there an access easement recorded on this portion of the site that Haywood Associates owns.
Okay. That was my question, so thank you.
I've got names on the screen here. Any other questions? Okay. So we will now open the public testimony portion of the hearing. Would the applicant like to present the project? Please just introduce yourself and proceed.
My name is Adrian Stern. I'm one of the general partners of the applicant. It's nice to see you all again. Commissioner Hodge, we were here last time for your 4-hour meeting on a project. We got to you guys about 11 o'clock when we were all starving to death, so we have fond memories of being with you. My wife warned me tonight that I'm in charge of getting cranberries, so she said keep it short, so I will keep it short. Let's see if it's going to work, Elizabeth. There we go. So this is who we are. This is the same team. This is the third project we're bringing to you out of a series that we intend to four. Some of my partners are here. Some of us are watching on the TV. The buildings we've done here before is 1196 Patricia, which was that 65-unit building we brought to you. And then the 1260 Patricia Avenue was the night we were with the rest of you on that long evening. The Patricia buildings have been extremely successful for us. We really feel that we feel very comfortable in the city. We feel that we have really got a good understanding of what your residents are looking for, and we are incredibly excited about the next project we're doing over here. I guess I'm kind of talking to the people who understand this, but you know, we are going to spend $35 million on this project, which brings a lot of money into the city. So far, we've created 119 Class A apartments. We've created affordable housing in the city. And I think if you ask people in the community, they'll tell you that Patricia Avenue has really changed. When we got involved with it, we got a weekly call from the police department about drug users on the property. We got a lot of problems with homeless people breaking in the properties. And today, the Patricia Corridor is really something to be proud of. If you drive down there today, you'll see a lot of new stuff that you've approved that's been built up there. And even more important, we've really created a kind of a locus point for the millennials in the city to join and stay in the city. We feel that's been a very important part of the city. And just to make a point that before the government got involved during COVID, we did a lot of things. We made a promise to the people of Simi that nobody would be put out of an apartment, out of housing, because they couldn't afford to be here. And we worked out payment plans with these folks to allow them to stay even before the government stuff got involved. And then we froze the rents. We worked with all of them to do the paperwork so that they could file for the federal and state money that came through. We basically went ahead and kept a promise to the community, which is, you know, we were going to provide housing. We would be there for the entire time. And that's our attitude as developers in the city. There's the parcel, and to be honest, it's an eyesore. It, you know, it's not very attractive. Commissioner Gray was correct. Simi had a hospital in that location, and it's been demolished for a number of years, and it's been sitting there dormant ever since. If you drive by, it just doesn't look very good. Let's see. So this is another view of the project. Our architect, Scott Godnier, who's here with us tonight, understands what we're trying to drive towards. We want to create a community for people. We say to people, when you rent an apartment with us, you're not renting an apartment, you're joining a community. And because of that, we feel that we need to be extremely sensitive to the needs of these folks, and a lot of their requests are for conjugal hangout spaces, for lack of a better thing, which is why we enrich our buildings in so many places. We have movie theaters, we have community rooms, we have great gyms, we have all sorts of activities. We've got outdoor yoga spots, we've got nice swimming pools, and we do landscape heavily so that we can enjoy that as part of the project. Kind of a different view of the project. Our projection is we're going to create 305 high-paying construction jobs. We're going to bring another $20 million to the local economy. $1.6 million in fees, and almost $100,000 in property taxes off of this project. So we are contributing to the local economy for sure. This is the slide that we show people when we're talking. Simi Valley, based on the Best Places Net Housing website, says that the apartment vacancy rate is 0.3%. 0.3% is zero. That just means there's units that are being worked on to be improved. And the median price of houses in the city has risen up to $737,000. So there's a good deal of population that can't afford places to live. And that's the reason why we feel that building in Simi Valley makes sense from our standpoint. A housing stock is aging, there's no question about it. The millennials tend to leave Simi, it's not a secret. You know, when you talk to people, and we talk to them in focus groups, and we talk to our existing tenants, the comment we got is, well, it's not kind of a cool place to live, we don't have a cool place to hang out at, you know, and so our buildings are modern. They do appeal to a slightly different demographic, but we feel that we've really hit the spot with these buildings as far as that goes. You know, we provide free Wi-Fi, for instance, because everybody in their generation thinks Wi-Fi is a birthright. And so we don't charge you for it, it's part of our campus. We have charging stations for your electric cars. I drive an electric car. We have key fobs. We don't, you know, we don't use keys anymore. We use our phones to get in and out of the apartments. We have beautiful gyms. We got nice swimming pools. We offer all these amenities, stainless steel appliance packages, bike lockers, you know, washer dryers in each unit. I mean, all the amenities that you would want in a high-end project, we provide in this project. We promote the use of walking. One of the beautiful things about this site that so excited us is that right behind us is this gorgeous park. And right behind us are all these walking trails. And so there's places to take your bike. There's places to go walk. You can go down and play tennis. You can go ahead and go for picnics. We think that's important. And we're right on a mass transit line on Haywood. So it's an extremely interesting site for us. This is kind of interesting too, and I don't know how often the commissioners get to hear this. Our population average is 35 years old. We currently right now have over 50 people in our waiting list for our existing buildings, and we went from a completely empty building to 100% full in under 90 days. That's how much the demand is in the area, and we've had less than 5% turnover in the building. People don't want to don't want to leave the building because they like living in the building. The spread of the units, one of the reasons why we're doing the higher story in the back is because we have a demand for people asking for townhouse-style units. They want the ability to isolate their bedrooms from the rest of their living area. And so that's the reason why we added that space to the back of the building. It's an experiment. We've only done one townhouse in the past. It ran it really well, and we want to see how this is going to work. Now, yeah, go back one, Lisa. You know, parking came up. You know, we overpark our projects because unfortunately people still drive. We would prefer that they not drive. We give them opportunities not to drive, but we believe in the necessity of having more than adequate parking. If you drive by our projects, you won't see people parking on the street. And to Commissioner Gray's point of question, yeah, we want visitor parking on them because we want to keep all that parking on our site because we feel from a safety standpoint, people feel more secure about parking on our sites. Can you hit the next one? Our sample units, become very popular. We believe that you know, an 800 square foot unit is the size that people really are looking for. We've seen some in the city as low as 600 feet. But we don't think that does a great job. And the part that we particularly like is if you look on the left side of the apartment, Mr. Godnear's done a great job here because we have all that storage up the left side of the units. You've got closets in the bedroom on the top. You've got your washer and dryer for extra storage on top of that. You've got your linen closet. You've got a huge pantry area because the one thing we heard in demand from people is that we want storage because we don't have enough room for all of our stuff. So you have a good-sized bedroom, a nice bathroom, a really deluxe kitchen. If you get the next one, please. And then our bigger units, same idea. We try to give maximum storage and maximum usage to the units. And that's an 1,100-foot unit, which is large for a two-bedroom. But you know what? We feel that for this marketplace, it works. Next one, please. That's a sample of our kitchen, our pool photos. And I think that's about it, Elizabeth. Anything else? Yeah. So let me address a couple questions that came up that are of interest to us. The building is under 40 feet, except for that back corner where those 4, Scott, or 5 townhouses? 4 townhouses are. That's the raised area. We put them in back on purpose because as you drive down Haywood, you won't see the extra story because of the elevation of the land. So we put them over there. That's the first thing. The second thing is, yes, we own the rest of the dirt, so to speak, and we want to get this project underway, and we will be back to see you hopefully in the next 5 or 6 months. And we have plans for that other side of the lot, but we felt that we wanted to detach the two together because we're going to target a different market with that other building. We're going to try to make that a more affordable project. So that was the second question. Contamination. Yes, when one of the holdups in us purchasing the property from the hospital was the site previously had diesel fuel spilled on it, and the site was cleaned up and properly remediated. We spent 8-9 months doing additional testing and work on it, and we came back with very little problems with it. We've already hired an environmental engineer who's looked at it and given us a green light. Our lender hired their environmental engineer to check our environmental engineer to give us a green light. So we have spent a good deal of time, and I'm very comfortable, Commissioner Gray, that we are not sticking anybody with an environmental problem, because if there was one, we wouldn't want to be involved with it necessarily either. So in view of the evening, I believe that will end my comments, and we're available for any questions the commissioners have.
Thank you very, very much. Do we have questions for the applicant? Commissioner Gray, we'll let you go first.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so I've got a question, and maybe I just didn't figure through sitting on an airplane and trying to read at the same time. I see that the garages are 2-car garage, and it says first floors. The other ones don't say anything. But if it's a 2-car, are these additional rentals? Like, is it going to be? They are 2-car garages, correct?
Well, Commissioner, our experience has been in the area that we rent the apartments without the garages. And if the with the renter likes to, we will rent them 1 or 2 spaces on a first-come, first-served basis.
That's what I kind of figured. So the garages are, and I'm assuming then, it's very similar to anybody that's got a car in the car or the parking spots is lock your car. You may share then a garage with another tenant if you're going to pay the extra for the car rental, correct? Or the garage rental.
Correct, Commissioner. The other thing is we tend to put the electric car chargers in those spaces. So we kind of hold out some of the units for people with electric cars so that they have access to a dedicated parking spot to an electric car charger.
Okay. And then which is fine. I mean, I saw that and I just wanted to clarify because I wasn't quite sure.
Sure.
Wi-Fi, is that going to be secured, or do they need to pay if they want to have secure Wi-Fi?
No, it's secure Wi-Fi. When you move into the apartment, you sign up and you put your own password and token in, and then it's available to you. And the Wi-Fi extends typically to the edge of the parking all the way back, so that when you exit your car, you're already on our Wi-Fi system all the way through the complex.
Okay. And then I think my last thing, I'm really glad that because I remember the contamination issue. So I'm really glad to hear that you guys, and I wasn't quite sure. That's why I asked staff on that. I'm glad that you guys have double checked and making sure that residents, I do really love the Patricia on the elbow. It was one of the first ones that I was really in favor of. And I'm really glad to hear that you guys have a lot of good progress on that. I am a little concerned about the distance on the trash, as Commissioner, I think, Hodge brought up, is that, are people kind of towards the back of the units, are they going to be able to easily get to the trash? Because it seems as though it's a longer distance, and maybe it's just the mapping issue that I'm not seeing.
Well, the problem isn't us. The problem is the trash company.
Okay.
They have a problem getting their trucks in and getting turned around in some locations. And so when we talked to Waste Management, because we've learned now being on the 3rd building, and they said, if you put them too far back, we have a problem backing our trucks in and out. And we would really like them to be more towards the front if you can do it. Right now on our 1260 Patricia building, they have to pull all the way into the building, come around the back side of the building to pick up the trash. And there are days, depending where cars are parked, that they have a hard time getting around it, and then they don't pick up the trash. So part of the reason was well, 99% of the reason was waste management. It's not our preference. To be honest with you, we wouldn't mind it having it further back either, but it's waste management who's pushing on that point.
Then obviously, is there an issue? Because I remember on the Patricia, the issue with solar panels on the carports had to do with the fire department being able to get around. The fire department doesn't obviously have an issue with this. It's just waste management.
Yeah, it's waste management. Our solar panels are on the roof on this particular building, right? Yeah, they're going to be on the roof. They're not going to be on the carports. So we're fine from that side.
And then my last question had to do with one of the questions that somebody made a comment on neighborhood council. Shoot, I'm so sorry. I'm looking at it now and I cannot remember what was so concerning to me. Oh, I'm sorry. They were. I just have to ask this question. And that had to do with that somebody had said that they had wished that the solar panels were going to be available for the apartment complexes, but these aren't purchasing. These are rentals.
Yeah,
correct?
well, actually, Commissioner,
Okay.
what the individual was saying is, why can't we put enough solar panels on the roof to run the entire building on solar? And the answer is, we don't have enough roof. And so
Got
the
it.
solar panels are designed to run all the house electrical and the parking and all those things. But if we put solar panels from edge to edge in the entire roof, the panels aren't efficient enough to generate enough electricity. So we tried to explain that to the person that night, and that was part of the conversation at the meeting that
Okay.
night. Was one of the other members of the neighborhood council was to try to explain the efficiency argument, and so that's what they were asking about. We don't sell the power to the residents. We run it on our common area.
Yeah, it would make sense with residents, but I mean, and with renters, but I wanted to at least ask that question of what was going on there.
Yeah, that's
And then my
what-
last
that's what it was.
very, very final question is, I am very, very much against like those cypress, spruce, whatever you call them, that, spiders and rats get in. And I didn't seem to see that on your tree list. And I'm assuming, I just want to ask the question, you don't have any plans for those in the tree list that I just may not have recognized the name on, right?
No, I don't believe so. We, every time we do a building, we learn, and one of the problems that you have in Simi, shockingly, is the amount of wind. And so we've had to already change out several of the trees over in the 1260 building because of wind issues. And Jared, you've had trees blow over already, right? Yeah, we've had, we use the roof extensively in that building, and when the winds come up, they knock the trees over. So the landscape architect we went back to and said, we need something that's a little more hardy involved with the trees. And so that tree list is based on something that will stand up a little bit better. We've had to make some modifications over the years now.
Yeah, I'm just always concerned about like the cypress tended to, rats and spiders,
no, we
and
don't-
we don't want.
We don't have any of those, no.
Awesome. Yeah. And I live up in Big Sky, so I totally understand the wind issue. It
Yep.
feels as though we have hurricane force winds in the Santa Ana. So I really appreciate your project and thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from any other commissioners?
I got a few. Back on the parking, not to harp on it. So it says 44 garage spaces. Are the garage spaces actually common garage spaces individually? Are they really a two-car? Is there a dividing wall between the two cars in the garage, or what?
No, there's no dividing wall. The tenant can lease one or two in the bay, we'll call it that way.
Okay.
And in some cases, we do have mixed units in them. A lot of times, we'll have one inside and one outside resident, as far as the parking goes. When we originally came up with site plans, we said, well, maybe certain units will come with garages. And then that didn't work out because some people just didn't want them. They were standing there empty. So then we went to this pooled idea where, you can do what you want. You can either park inside the garage or outside the garage. And then we went to the police department and we said, how do you feel about garage doors? And the police feedback to us is, please don't put garage doors in. They're a problem. If you can avoid it, we would really appreciate it, because when the garage door closes, people can run into problems, and there's been problems with that in the neighborhood. So ultimately, we came to the idea of these open bay ideas where you can rent one or two spots, and the chargers will be inside those areas. And so we'll hold back some of those, Commissioner, for people specifically with electric cars.
Okay, so there are no garage doors.
Right?
Because the renderings look like it has garage doors.
We've rendered them with garage doors. We're hoping to put in garage doors on this one. We haven't done them in the past because
Okay.
of the police commentary, but the commentary we've got from residents is they would prefer garage doors.
I'm assuming there's some restriction against storing stuff in the garage?
Yeah,
Otherwise you're
we
eliminating
have
parking space.
restrictions against flammable. We have restrictions against, there's a list of things that we don't,
Can they use it for storage instead of parking a car there? Just store household furniture in there, or?
we strongly discourage that because then we have a problem with parking.
Correct.
So we don't like that. We've had people during the pandemic who opened up a gym in there. We've had people who had Etsy stores in there. And in the pandemic, we kind of backed off because of the extraordinary nature of what was going on. But our general policy is it belongs for cars, motorcycles, bicycles, and things like that.
The 87 other parking spaces, those are unassigned, correct? First come, first serve?
Correct.
I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Vice Chair Rice?
Sorry, one quick question, since we're on parking. And since it came up with one of the other projects, so that's well. I know that on one of the other projects, you mentioned having a dedicated Lyft or Uber or delivery space. Are you going to have something like that on this project too?
Well, we tried that with the Lyft and the Uber guys, and they didn't pay attention to it.
Okay, then never mind.
Although-
Just curiosity more than
Honestly,
anything.
Commissioner, the funniest part is we have a dedicated spot at 1260 for the
And they
mailman.
just don't use it?
The mailman uses the spot. He gets very angry if someone's in his spot. So we might have to deal with that, but the Uber and Lyft people didn't pay any attention to
Okay,
us.
fair
We-
enough.
We gave up.
Okay.
You know, I knew that wasn't going to work when you did it.
Yeah, I know
I
you knew
knew
that,
it.
but we tried.
It's a nice thought.
It was a thought.
I love that idea.
I have some questions.
Commissioner Hodge, please.
Yeah, this gets just to follow up on what Commissioner Rice was saying, and I just want to make sure that this all meets the requirements as is necessary. You just mentioned that Commissioner Mann asked you a question. You have 83 parking spaces that are, first come, first served, correct?
We call it a pool.
All right, fine. You have 83 pool parking spaces, and the others you plan on charging for, correct?
Correct.
All right, so the requirement is that you provide 102 spaces. Is it allowable for the property owner to charge people for parking spaces and still call them parking spaces for meeting the 100, in this case, the 100, I think it's 2 parking space requirement?
That's probably a question for Mr. Caceres.
Good one, Commissioner.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So it seems that there are more parking spaces than required. As I recall, the number's 131. And now you take out the 9 for, you got 9 for guest parking, and I commend you for that. I think that's good, because you're not required to have any for guests.
10.
Under the rules. It's 10. All right, fine. So you have 10 more than, and I look at what you're doing here, and I think that you're trying to do things to enhance the quality of life for people by not pushing the envelope on some of the things that you could do, because it turns out not to be what's best for the project and the people that live there, and I commend you for that. But I'm asking the question to make sure that when we make a finding that you have adequate parking, that where you have an applicant who has 83 pool parking spaces, they're required to provide 102 parking spaces. Some of them they're holding back and charging for them. Does that still count for parking spaces as required, or is there some if people don't have the financial wherewithal and those parking spaces go unused and the garage doors keep them closed, do they have the required parking spaces at 83?
I would be surprised if state statutes and public policy would allow for that to count as required parking or sufficient a number of parking spaces. So I do have concerns with the idea that if you're charging the tenants, that they can be counted as applicable parking spaces. But I'd have to look into that, be more specific. I don't know if staff has any further insight on that.
Yeah. I would give this commentary. We have a very large waiting list for those parking garages. Typically, we have usually 15 or 20 people waiting for a garage. And on 1260 Patricia, our last building, they went instantly almost, because people wanted that garage and that storage space in front of the car that comes with it. So it's never really raised up to an issue because they go so quickly.
Okay, and I'm sure that you're, from a practical standpoint, you're right. I would prefer to be on solid footing just in case the world changes in terms of the way people like to operate. My guess is it's probably fine, but at the same time, it just seems like, where you're holding back spaces and you're going to be charging for them. I just want to make sure under these circumstances, especially, look, we're not supposed to be talking about, not supposed to.
No.
We don't, the Planning Commission doesn't get involved with the affordable housing issue. That's for the City Council and the Affordable Committee. But I just want to make sure that we're on solid ground here, that you have the required parking if you're withholding parking and mandating payment.
I hear your point. Well, we can get around the problem. We can just increase the rent of the apartments and throw in the parking space.
Or you could make all of those spaces available until people rent them. So that they're available, and then some people are going to want them because of the charging spaces, and then they rent them, and then now you've got people who are affirmatively using them, and you've got them rented out.
Yeah.
But that would require a condition, I believe, within the
Right.
the staff.
You're touching on exactly what I was going to suggest. You can place a condition, if it's not already there, that the required parking spaces would be there, and they would have to be lawful and applicable and apply with all laws. So if we don't have a situation where those parking spaces apply with the law, then that would be potentially a violation of the condition.
I think that makes sense, and that would be something that I hope that we could modify before it goes to the council.
Might already be in there, I don't know.
Commissioner, we'd be fine with that.
Okay.
It wouldn't bother us at all.
Yeah, because from what you're saying, it's going to be a
moot point
non-starter
anyhow.
in terms of a problem.
Yeah, sure, but we'd be fine with that if staff wanted to make that addition.
See, it's not 11 o'clock, and I can think more clearly than the last time.
We were bringing hamburgers in the back that night.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, is there anyone in the chamber wishing to be heard on this matter? There's not. So we're going to close the public portion of the hearing. Thank you very much, Mr. Stern. Are there any comments from staff regarding statements made during the public hearing?
Yeah, Chairman Tolson, I'll just defer my comments until any potential ideas for conditions or recommendations made with your motion to the City Council regarding how that condition might be worded.
Okay. I skipped a little bit. Would the applicant like to respond to any of the public comments? There was none. If there are no further comments, we'll close the public testimony. Comments, here we go. Commissioners, are there any comments or questions from members of the Planning Commission? Or discussion?
I'm just curious on how we would word something to what Commissioner Hodge was just mentioning, as I want to make sure that it's not taken away from any guest parking, because I've seen situations where the guest parking has been a problem, where people end up taking up those parking spots. And if it's going to be part of the 102 minus the required, how's that going to be worded, in my opinion? If there's a motion, of course.
Mr. Gibson, you're going to make sure that that's in the wording?
Well, as I recall, the discussion wasn't really so much about guest parking. I think it would probably be difficult to condition guest parking, since under our own rules, they're not required to have any at all. But
I understand that.
the discussion that we were having is whether or not, the certain spaces that are required or thought to be intended to be sold could count as parking, as opposed to, the pool parking. And that was the question that we were sort of addressing, and the applicant, I think, very reasonably said that he would agree to a condition that all of the spaces are, in essence, pool spaces until rented, and that this would be something that we could be satisfied with, because we would know that the people that would be using those spaces would be people who are living there.
You can have a general condition. All applicant will provide all required parking spaces as set forth by state law for this particular development.
I think that'd be perfectly acceptable.
I just made it
That's
up.
why he gets the big bucks,
So that'd be as conditioned by state law? Is that what?
as
As
required.
as required or as set forth by state law.
Sure.
So if there is a motion to approve, we can do it as amended.
Got it.
Perfect. Any other comments or discussion?
Couple comments.
Commissioner Mann?
The project is beautiful in most respects, not all. The south elevation has no color. All the other elevations, the sides have a different color. The south elevation doesn't have the pop that the other ones do for the blue. Was there a reason for that? Because it's the shortest part of it, or I guess we're opening
This,
back.
this is discussion amongst ourselves,
So
and then we'll have to open it up if,
Okay, so let me direct it to staff. Four-sided architecture is what our city requires, correct? Or four-sided design?
design elements and
Guidelines?
articulation.
Yeah,
that-
that's our design guideline, that's
Is that
correct.
also included on the inside courtyard? Because the inside courtyard of this development doesn't have a whole lot of design.
Design.
That's at the discretion of the commission and council as far as the inside courtyard versus an outside elevation visible to the public.
Okay. The four-sided architecture does meet it for the south elevation, but it just doesn't have the same pop that the
Whoops.
other three do.
I'm just curious to make sure, darn it, we're talking about the same thing.
Yep.
You're talking about, this is the south elevation.
Yep.
It's gray and brown. I'm
Yes.
sorry, it's beige and something, dark
It
brown.
just doesn't have the third color that the east and west do for the blue.
And yeah.
Okay.
I just,
Okay.
I like the three different colors because I think it makes it stand out a little bit more for the east and west elevation.
Here's the pictures on the screen here.
Yeah, I see your point in terms of consistency.
And then
It's on 3 sides, not 4.
And then on the inside courtyard, they just look very,
There's
Bland.
zero.
there's
You're
zero.
talking specifically about the east and west on the inside courtyard.
Correct, because I don't think we have, I'm not sure if we have a north
Yeah,
or
'cause
south.
if-
But the east and west,
you
both
look at
are
the-
very
Right.
bland.
If you look at the south, where there's an aerial kind of view, is that the south side where you've got the taller, I guess that would be the north side of the south side. It's got architectural details that the east and west sides don't have, which I really like that. And same with the north, or I guess that would be the south side of the north corridor has architectural details as well. I think what you're looking at is just the east and
Well-
interior, the east and the west sides
Yeah,
don't have as much architectural detail as the north and the south and the interiors.
yeah, this seems like a
According to
question
what
that
I'm
we
looking
may
at.
have wanted to bring up to the applicant during the public hearing.
Yeah.
My thought about looking at it is, it's the south elevation, it's facing the arroyo, it's coming, the visibility would be through trees and coming to the park. Maybe this actually makes it less obvious. And you know, that the blue might make it more obvious and sort of highlight the fact that there's a building there as a possibly sort of melting away. I don't know what the thought process was, but if we're going to, you know, talk about this, I'd like very much to reopen the public hearing and let the applicant explain the thought process there. Because I understand you're thinking about consistency with 360 design, and I completely agree with you. We've talked about this many times. We've always tried to be
I do too.
consistent. So, but I'd like to reopen the public hearing and have the applicant just, you know, tell us what their thinking was on that.
Is there any other discussion items amongst ourselves before we open it up to them?
I think it's an appropriate time to get the answer.
Okay.
Chairman?
We're going to open up the public hearing, and we can, Mr. Stern, you want to address the questions that we have?
Thank you, Mr. Stern.
You're welcome, Commissioner. I have the madman who picked the colors, so we can ask him. You know, it's an interesting story about color, right? The blue is the color of my wife's eyes, and because I know, I was asking about colors, so
I understand.
You know, it's the thing I see in the morning, and our goal was, Commissioner Hodge is right. We wanted the property not to stand out on the arroyo side. Our thought was to go ahead and have it blend in on a neutral basis so that you didn't see the building. We purposefully didn't want it to pop out over on that side. So that was the rationale, Commissioner, for that. The interior, we do make it bland, if you want to call it that, because we use it as a blank canvas because we encourage the residents to decorate exterior portions of their spaces. And if you come over and you look at the 1260, for instance, you'll see people have chairs out there and have plants and things like that. And so we kind of look at it as a kind of a blank canvas rather than one that is highly stylized from that standpoint. On the 1260 building, we commissioned a local muralist. You remember what the name was?
No, but I know you're.
Yeah, we did a whole mural on the inside, and it looks really nice. But, you know, when we do this design work, we kind of always start out as just kind of a basic canvas to work upon, and then we stylize it with color. We add color in the chairs downstairs. We have outdoor barbecue areas which have color. We have trellises to shade the sun because the sun is so strong in the summer that are colored. And we put in pots with trees and things like that. So we kind of purposefully, Commissioner, try to make it neutral, and then we pop it with those colors. You know, you're the color expert. You want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
so the other.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, Scott Godnier with Llewellyn and Moody Architects. Thank you. Also in the courtyard, we have trees. So what you're seeing is sort of like the sort of plain version. We don't show a lot of the trees in mature state. So a lot of that will be obscured as you go back and forth. And we kind of looked at the idea of playing with the blue color a little bit. It's like a hardy shake material. But it started to get a little, I'll call it kitschy at some point. So we're still kind of fine-tuning a few things like that. But we felt that, as Mr. Sherman was pointing out, having sort of a base palette to allow the residents to sort of have something, as opposed to having too many things happening, it gets a little bit busy on that. And on the backside, you know, we looked back and forth about whether we wanted to use the blue, but in the end, we really wanted it to kind of disappear and not be the object. I mean, that's why we put the 4 stories back there.
Right.
So.
Okay. As long as there was a thought process, sounds like you guys have done
Oh,
your
yeah,
homework.
they beat up the architect well on that. So.
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, we got our pound of flesh out of them.
Okay, my
Any-
question is answered.
Any other questions to the applicant or before we close the public portion again? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So we're going to close the public portion of the hearing one more time. And any other comments, let alone discussion before we move forward? I have one question.
My only I'm sorry, go ahead.
Commissioner Gray, go ahead.
Go ahead. I guess, you know, I understand their thought process on the south side, especially with trees and stuff. I do have a concern living in apartments way back when, is that the interior, just like I said, the east and the west side is, you know, for residents to do their decor, it's not really that easy to do that since this is their main entrance. And so it's not as if this is their, you know, patio or something, is that you've got people walking by. So there is a little lacking on those. I would like to see a little bit more color differentials between, you know, some of the units like they did on the exterior side, because this is the main like hallway into their place. You can't really put too much pots and plants and whatever else on the outside. So it would be nice to see some of that color brought in. That is my only really big comment that I have about this. I like everything that they're doing at this point with the parking. Not everybody wants covered parking. Not everybody wants a car to begin with, and like everything we've already addressed. But that is my only thing. I wish that they would hopefully maybe come back and consider the east and the west interior corridors with a little bit more architectural design. Okay.
Thank you very much. I've got Commissioner Hodge. Should I clear that?
Yes, it is. And this is regarding discussion. I wanted to briefly discuss the supplement that was provided with respect to questions and inquiries and positions with respect to the mitigated negative declaration. I've had a chance to read the entire document carefully, including the responses of staff. And I would make a finding that the mitigated negative I think it's terrific that somebody spent this much effort to identify specific issues inside the mitigated negative declaration and to make it very precise. We want to be precise. We want to be correct. Apparently, staff was accepting of their analysis and took a look and said, "Woo, some places they were right, and some places they were more right, and some places maybe a little less." But there were improvements that were made with the document that made the document more accurate. And I commend anybody who helped staff make sure that this information was accurate and that it was complete. It seems to me, and I would make the finding that the modifications or the differences are in fact not significant, and in fact they're de minimis for the most part. And I think that there's no reason to find that the differences and the changes that were identified would be significant, and therefore there would be no need to recirculate the mitigated negative declaration.
Thank you very much. I've got one question for our attorney. What is, in your opinion or research, the response from the state of California as it relates to our increasing our demand for electricity or water?
Well, without disclosing attorney privilege communications I've had with city staff on this issue, I have, in fact, reached out to HCD and inquired whether or not they have a policy in light of the recent drought that we had. And they informed me from their policy division that as far as they're concerned, that there's sufficient infrastructure within the state of California to support continued housing.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion?
Sure.
Vice Chair.
With your
Rice.
permission, Chairperson. I just want to say that I normally I would be loath to approve something that's above 3 stories, but this 5 foot 6 inches seems to be well warranted, and I especially appreciate the fact that the applicant is trying something new and trying it with only 4 units too. So I certainly hope this works out, because he's putting it in the back, I just think it's an interesting way to do it. I appreciate that. I appreciate that he's putting in 4 very low income units, and it'll help us towards our RHNA goals. I also think that a project like this is good in a time of a drought and stuff, because it's very compact and it's in a central area. It's not all spread out like a single family home development where it requires so much more infrastructure and stuff like that. So this is actually better for the city in the long run than having some gigantic project or something like that requires so much more piping and infrastructure. So I just hope that in the future we put more things close to this so that those people actually can walk to nearby stores and shops and restaurants and things like that. So I hope those things come with it in the near future. So anyway, I do like a lot of things about this project. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hodge?
Yes, thank you. Is this working? Okay. The fact that this is residential very high, I mean, that's what the zoning was to go. I'm glad that you decided to build it to that density. Obviously, it's possible if you wanted to, you could put one house on it and then you would meet the density, but that of course wouldn't be very smart. I think that this is an intelligent project from a number of different ways. One of the things that I'm very pleased about is that unlike some other things we've had to deal with in the past, you decided not to go for it all. You didn't go pig, to use a poker term. You're trying to build something here apparently that has less density than you could have had, that has less height than you could have had, that maybe has less concessions that maybe you could have had or used them differently, that would have impacted adversely the quality of life of the people, for the people who are going to be living there, and ultimately the value of the project to the city as a whole. So from that perspective, I commend you for doing that, and for first I thought this was going to be a 4-story project, and I was really kind of tickled when I saw where it was and what you're doing with it, and it's okay with me. I mean, obviously you've got the right to do it under the state law. sorry, period. But instead of going nuts and trying to jam whatever you can in there, you're making a good project that will stand the test of time. I think because it'll be nice, it's not going to be something which, because it's really not a great place to live, it won't be run down. Ultimately, it would probably be less expensive for you to manage and run the property that way. And I look at this from that perspective and think, yay, so this is good. There's nothing in here that violates our rules that would cause me to say, well, gee, this is all great. Like you gave us the numbers about how much money you're going to spend. Honestly, I don't care how much money you're going to spend in construction. That's not for us to decide. The question isn't, is it a good project? The question is do you meet the design guidelines, and do you meet the requirements, and do you, et cetera? And can we find that these things meet our guidelines, and can we be consistent in applying them so that developers know that if they do, there's a channel, and if they stand within the channel, they're going to get approved. And if they go outside the channel, they're going to have some problems. And I take a look at this, and I see that everything is inside the channel, and I commend you for bringing us a project that doesn't have these kinds of really push the envelope requests, and I think it's very thoughtful. I'm okay with the back. I don't disagree with Commissioner Mann about, it's not perfect 360 design, but you know what? That's okay. I think that the thought process is appropriate, and that it's sufficiently, because I mean the architectural is the same, the amount of articulation is the same. The only thing that isn't quite the same is there's a little bit of that line. If your wife's watching this, I just want to tell you, even though you gave that line about her eyes, you're still going to have to get her a Christmas present. So I'm good with the project. I'm pleased with it. I think that there's a lot of good and a lot of things to be said about it that are affirmative, and I suspect to, unless somebody can really persuade me not to, I suspect to support it.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Mann?
Short, sweet, and simple. It's a great project. I appreciate the forethought that you guys had in answering the questions. There's certainly a reason or a method for your madness, so I will expect that there will be it will be better than what we see now. You guys can figure that out. Obviously, you have a great history with the city, and we look forward to having this and your future projects come before us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a couple comments. I appreciate the efforts that you've put forward, and it's a beautiful project. Getting the neighborhood council was 5-0 was good. We do need the apartments. I appreciate the addressing the trash. It's technically, it's not waste management, it's WM nowadays. And your current projects prove that this will be another good one. And as it relates to the blue eyes and the wife, when you look at the back of her head, you don't see the blue, right? So, having said that, Commissioner Gray, do you have any final comments? Commissioner Gray?
No, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. No, I'm very pleased. I'm in favor of having options for people. I have heard, over the last, 10 years, families that are looking for, options, whether or not these are 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. I think it's a nice looking project. It's not boxy. I love the fact that everything is kind of staggered, which is that design that CME is definitely needing, so that we don't revert back into some old architecture. I do really appreciate when you guys did the project. I think you said it was the 1260 on Patricia. I was very excited about that. You guys will all know that I will always say that I wish there was more affordable housing options here. But I am very pleased that there are options here, and so I would like maybe some extra color in the back and the interior. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you very much. May I please have a reading of the resolution?
Resolution number SVPC 09-2022. A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Simi Valley recommending to the City Council approval of a zone change ZS 2022-0002, and Plan Development Permit PDS 2022-0001 to change the zoning of a .22 acre portion of the 4.57 acre project site from commercial office to residential very high density in order to construct a new 83-unit multifamily residential building with 4 affordable units located at 1850 Haywood Street, and adoption of a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring plan as amended.
So, Chairman Tolson, as amended, there's 2 items on the table, whether there was a consensus on adding additional color, and then if there's also discussion about some sort of parking recommendation. So if you could, if someone would like to reiterate what they're looking for.
I can reiterate the parking condition. So if there's a motion to adopt a resolution, it would include an additional condition that the applicant will provide all required parking spaces as set forth by state law for this particular development.
Yeah, and I had the impression that we were pretty much good to go with the south elevation as presented.
We passed on the color on the south. So just as Mr. Caceres has read, that will be the as amended part of that.
Correct.
The chair will now entertain a motion.
Move the resolution.
I have a first.
Second.
Because it's been a while, go ahead. Read the whole thing. Read the whole thing, please.
Well, actually, the reason I said that is because I was looking at the script, and I don't see the way that she just read it. Maybe I'm not looking in the right spot.
Well, within the script, there is recommended language for any commissioner to read from.
So
I don't see that portion about the 4 units, et cetera. Maybe you could tell me what page it's on?
4 units, but 4 units. Oh,
page 20, is that?
21?
21.
Well, we can read the actual resolution.
21.
Did, okay. Well, then we can use a modified form of it as set forth in the script.
Ah,
Very good.
So we have a motion by Chairman Hodge and a second by Vice Chair Rice.
Yeah, I'm not the chairman.
Oh, Commissioner Mann.
I think we're waiting for, I think we're waiting for Commissioner Hodge to read. I move to adopt the resolution recommending.
Well, but she had mentioned all the stuff about the 4 affordable units, et cetera. It's not in there.
It's the title.
right. Wasn't the affordable units already proposed?
No, we're, all right. So I'm going to defer to
I'm confused.
Commissioner Rice to state the motion.
I move to adopt a resolution recommending approval of ZS 2022-2, or excuse me, 0002, PDS 2022-0001, mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring reporting program as amended.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Vice Chair Rice made a motion and a second by Commissioner Mann. Can we call for a vote? And then we need to ask Commissioner Gray for your vote verbally, please.
Mine's a yay.
Please repeat.
Yes.
She said yes.
Because yays and nays sound the same, don't they? Sorry. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
There is no appeal period for the planned development permit and zone change. Oh, there's no appeal period for the planned development permit, PD-S-2022-001, and zone change, Z-S-2022-002. The items will proceed to the City Council with a Planning Commission's recommendation. Congratulations. Righto. Are there, let's see, any staff have anything to report?
Yes, Chairman Tulsa, members of the Planning Commission, we provided you your tentative Planning Commission agenda for December 7th. Also, there's a good possibility that one of the items may be continued to December 21st, or we may reach out to you for possibly a special meeting on December 14th, and we will let you know.
Thank you very much.
Sean, while you mention that, I will be unavailable on December 21st.
We will reach out for a possible special meeting on December 14th or move it to January.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Do any commissioners have anything to report?
I too will not be available on December 21st.
Thank you very much. Does
I mean, I
sta-
could be, but it would be very remotely again. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Gray. Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board, does the staff have anything to report?
No items.
Tree Advisory Board, does the staff have anything to report?
No items tonight.
This concludes the meeting of November 23rd, 2022. The next scheduled meeting will be December 7th, 2022. This meeting is adjourned.